So, if you've listened to the Last Star Wars podcast for about the last few months, we've recently sort of started to talk a little bit more about the real life sort of interactions between the talent that is involved with Star Wars and any sort of controversies or conversations that have to do with just sort of being a good person or being empathetic to people who have received unequal treatment. So, like, there's a thing that's happening with Gina Carano that we'd like to discuss before we get into this episode, and then we'll just be on with your regular programming that's Star Warsy.
So basically, since about the time coronavirus started, she's like liked posts and tweeted stuff about sort of denying its existence. That's one of the straws. I don't know why I just said straws. One of the things that she's done, I guess, that's made people mad.
Yeah.
She also was hating on Black Lives Matter protests. She's done a lot of things. She made fun of people who put pronouns in their bio, which that's just a commonly decent thing to do because if everyone does it, then it lets people who are identify if they're not non-binary or they're trans, everyone can just feel like just be upfront about their gender, and that it's not they don't stand out and feel alienated just because they're the only ones with their pronouns in their bio. Anyway, so she made fun of that. Where in Pedro Pascal, he does it, and there was something, I don't fully remember the exchange. I don't know if it was an exchange, but there was something where she like made fun of him for it. And has like this has caused, because there's so many hate videos related to Star Wars. And there's this weird YouTube sort of area of thought where like they use these celebrities as like pawns in this culture war. I don't know if you've seen this, Spencer. Do you know?
Just a little bit.
I mean, you've seen
I
some of this
haven't.
stuff, like
Yeah.
like the bullying of Kelly Marie Tran, like that sort of stuff. Kathleen
Mhm.
Kennedy conspiracy theories. It's very toxic. So now she's one of their sort of figures that they look up to because she's speaking out against the liberal media or whatever by just sort of being shitty. And so recently she like said happy birthday to a YouTuber who like is one of those people who like does hate videos and like
Yeah.
admires her or whatever. I'm trying to think of what other details. I'm getting exhausted just thinking of all the details I can think of.
But basically, Star Wars probably
Another
won't
thing.
keep her.
That's what I think. I'm thinking that she wouldn't be saying all this nonsense if she was still under contract. Another thing recently is that she is promoting herself on Parler now, which is an app that promotes free speech or whatever, or doesn't enforce any guidelines about hate speech, and it's funded by like a right-wing sort of billionaire mogul or something like that. So it's not as nonpartisan as it seems, but like she wants to do that so she can be away from people who are saying, hey, stop doing transphobic or racist things. And we can in the Ahsoka episode, there's also some controversy with Rosario Dawson. But like, I don't know. This is the point. I don't know. We're getting to the point with Cara Dune where like start to address the real life stuff. I didn't want to just push it under the rug, I guess. And maybe we could clip this out and save it for the next episode. Especially because if this episode's running long. How do you feel about that?
That sounds good to me. We'll do that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the basic rundown of why people are feeling more discomfort about Cara Dune, not as a character, just seeing this person sort of given this platform. But there might be a relief coming in the future if she doesn't continue as part of the show. But there's also this rumor that there's a Cara Dune spinoff, so I have no idea.
Welcome back to Mornings with the Mandalorian, the show where we talk about our first reactions, filmmaking techniques, and connections to the greater Star Wars universe within the Emmy Award-winning show, The Mandalorian, now streaming on Disney+. I'm your host, Spencer Chandler, here with my co-host, in person, Christian Miller. How is it going, Christian?
Pretty good. It's no longer across the stars. We are in the same recording studio.
Yeah, also known as a new room in a different grandparent's house.
Yep. And I have Baby Yoda with me. Spencer has made the most valuable purchase of his life.
Yeah, not Christian. I did. I went and I splurged for $20 for a life-size Baby Yoda from Target. And Christian is now caressing him. And
it's not a caress. That's not.
You don't think it's a caress?
You don't use that word for babies.
I use that for the baby that I was caressing yesterday. Actually, I never touched the baby yesterday.
You're not taking good care of him.
Of Hank?
Oh, you're talking about what?
I was talking about Hank. I was playing with Hank yesterday.
Oh, sorry.
No. Anyway, yeah, we're very excited to be back in the studio with our podcast mascot, Baby Yoda. It feels good to just be able to record in person again, and I feel like our comedic timing will be that much better now. That was the one thing that you had said that you were excited for.
Yeah, generally we're able to react quicker to the things we're saying and just sort of be more goofy when we're in the same room. But at the same time, you're always a little bit more worried about the technical stuff, and you're like, yeah, speak louder,
Well, it's because
they gotta turn some knobs. So we could get a little bit more antsy this time too. So.
Yeah, it's just because the audio is a little weird with Christian right now. I don't know why his thing is a little softer than mine, but it's fine.
Well, don't you always have your settings to adjust to your voice? Then you say that's what you do for all your podcasts?
To adjust to my voice specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah. So mine kind of makes my voice a little bit lower so that I can I don't have as much of a high pitched annoying squeal. And for you, I accentuated the high part so that you don't have a low voice. So yeah.
Yeah. We're just meeting in the middle.
Yeah. I don't know. This is Christian's first time really using a podcast mic. He normally uses one of his mics at home. So we're trying to figure out that kind of stuff. But it's fun because we're here to talk about The Mandalorian, and ultimately it doesn't matter how good the sound quality is as long as we have fun talking about what we want to talk about. And we have a big episode this week, I would say. Did you like this episode as much as I did?
I don't think so.
I know I didn't like it as much as I liked last week's episode, but I still liked it a lot. I think it was just fun. It was a fun little journey to go on.
Yes, I agree that it was fun. I think there were some missed opportunities narratively, but I also think that it serves its purpose because there was a lot of action in this episode, and I feel like we're going to get the reverse of that next week, and a lot more sort of mystical stuff and more weird stuff and more emotional stuff next week.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like they splurged on the budget for this episode to really go all out because they knew they were going to be more of a calm, still episode next week. That's all my speculation. But anyway, I have some little nitpicks with how the story was told this episode, which we'll get into.
Oh, so do you have big nitpicks or just little nitpicks?
Just things that would make the dynamics with the characters more interesting.
I like it. I have more notes than usual this week. I don't know why that is. Sorry for the sudden spike in audio quality there. We're trying to adjust mid-podcast. I have a lot of notes about stuff that I know, Christian, you don't know about. It's a lot of some Dark Trooper news that I have in here, along with some other stuff. Cool moments in this episode that I have written down. But I think first it's synopsis time. Is it synopsis time already?
No.
Oh, what's first then?
Reactions.
Reactions.
How we watched it.
Yeah. Well, we forgot how we did this as soon as we moved out.
Speak for yourself.
Okay.
So I watched this episode on my TV in my living room. What's interesting about it? Oh, I was making an omelet while watching, so I didn't hear all the dialogue the first time. So I do go rewatch and get some of the details, I guess. So I watched it again on the same TV with my dad. I don't know if my sister watched this episode because she never watched it with me. And then today, when I'm taking notes, I watched it on my phone with my headphones with subtitles on to really get all the details. And I don't have a lot of music notes.
Really?
So, but there's also something we'll get into that has to do with music, which we'll save for the end as always.
Is this at the end of the episode that you're speaking about? Because if so, I know it. If so, I know what you're talking
about. Well, that'll
about.
go in the middle of the episode. I mean, this is in regards to the soundtrack.
I meant, yeah, okay, I understand. Yeah, so for me, as usual, I watched it once and then read articles and watched YouTube videos about it for the last weekend. I did not watch this one with my girlfriend, as usual. Instead, what did I do? I watched it at my house, yeah, because I came home from college on Friday. And so Friday night, I got in my bed, turned on the Mandalorian, watched it, and then went to sleep and had sweet dreams about Baby Yoda eating some macaroons.
That's interesting that we've never really talked about this, but like how you digest like after watching it, like you read articles and YouTube videos, and it's very like you get like a quick rundown, I guess, and I zone out and play 2K while listening to long podcasts.
Yeah, I do listen to podcasts. So I listened to a little bit of Force Center podcast this week for that. But my first reaction was that I was just this wasn't like a huge episode. I mean, at the end of it, you kind of realize it's bigger than you originally think the episode is. But throughout the episode, I was just kind of like, this is some pretty cool action stuff. And Carl Weathers directed this, so, it's very cool. And I had a good time watching it. It definitely wasn't boring, that's for sure.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, we're starting to see more of like a fusion of the different styles of episodes from season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Season 1, it was either an important, like, status quo changing like narrative episode or like a standalone side adventure. The only thing that was like really a fusion between those two was for chapter 2 called The Child, where like it's like mostly side quest. Mando helps the Jawas and chases the Jawas, but then like it's also like meeting Baby Yoda and like the introduction of a lot of the themes of the show.
Yeah.
But this one, this one and the past few episodes have really dealt with sort of both styles. He's gonna just go off and help some people, but it's also like, this is changing everything we know.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good median, like you said. Like, I really liked how it was very much, story related, as we see at the end. And it's got a really good story to it, but it's also a little kind of almost a one-off with Mando and Grief Karga and Cara Dune and the Mithril being back again, which I was very excited to see him back because I really liked him last season. Anything else for our reactions? Those are pretty much my reactions, and I did somewhat prepare a synopsis.
All right.
Not really. I just read through the summary before you got here to record.
Yeah. Normally you're off the cuff, but this is a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Okay.
Brushing up on certain details.
Here we go. We start out. Let me remember where. Yeah. So we start out, and the Mando is going to Navarro right after he got off all the watery planet. He got away from all the different people trying to get him, and had his encounter with Death Watch and not Death Watch, but Bo-Katan and the Night Owls. And he gets onto Navarro and figures out that forgetting her name off the top of my head. Why am I doing this again? Cara Dune is now the Marshal of Navarro. And she is, we can see her protecting the Mandalorian sanctuary, where we have a bunch of, I had their Aqualish. That's their species. They stole a bunch of people's money. She gets it back. She's a very good marshal. She's doing her job. And we see that she is kind of helping to get her and Grief Karga together, helping to get the city and the planet back up to a well-respected planet. So while Mando is waiting for his ship to be repaired, he is going to help them defeat an Imperial hideout that is still on Navarro. So they go and they take the Mithril, who is now working for Greef Karga, paying off a life debt, and they go and they're invading the base, trying to be all sneaky with it, until an alarm kind of goes off and they have to fight their way out a little bit. They figure out that Moff Gideon was trying to harness the midichlorians from Baby Yoda's blood, and that's the big plot twist. Not really plot twist, but the big reveal. And on their way out, they have to fight some scout troopers on speeders. They gotta fight some TIE fighters.
But Mando leaves.
Yeah,
that.
Mando had left because he needed to make sure the child was safe, because Greef Karga left him at a school before this, while they went and killed all the Imperial guys. So Mando's going back, and while Greef and Cara and the Mithril are all running from the TIE fighters, here comes a Razor Crest out of nowhere and just blasts these TIE fighters out of the sky. And they're all safe and sound. And then we see Carson, again at the end of this episode, come and try to recruit Cara to be, I guess, New Republic police, I guess is what you would call her. They want to recruit her because...
A ranger. It's like a ranger.
Yeah. So that's what they want to do. And then you get end episode. Pretty good. Baby Yoda eats some macaroons. I like that a lot. And I know that 2 episodes ago, whenever, we saw for the first time Baby Yoda eating the rations, I did say that I don't really want to see Baby Yoda eating in every episode. I would like to formally retract that statement, because I absolutely love seeing Baby Yoda eat.
Was that referring even to when you would find a wild animal?
No, that's fine. I was just in the moment I was like, I don't think we need to see Mando feeding Baby Yoda.
Oh, you mean you don't need to see the daily schedule of their life every single episode.
Yeah, basically. And so I was like, I don't really need to see this. But now I'm really glad to see him feed him every episode. I would love it.
I like it because they've shown more progression with how Mando and Baby Yoda relate. Even going back to season 1, Baby Yoda would just find a frog and swallow it. And then in this season, he's gone after the eggs. He's gone after the spider egg. He's eaten the probably very bland rations that the Mando has. And now I think they had a broth. They're drinking some sort of soup. And that those 2 shots of them drinking together, and Mando lifting up his helmet, that just felt like such a beautiful father-son thing. Because I feel like that's a very common image that people use to illustrate parenting, is when the child sort of emulates what the parent is doing. Even have you heard of Bluey? Do you know what Bluey is?
No, I don't. What is it?
It's a kid's cartoon. And because PBS is on, or not PBS, Disney Junior's on at my house a lot. Yeah. And so it's there's this episode where there's these 2 Australian dogs, this is from Australia, and the entire time the kid is copying what the father's doing. I don't remember the episode. There's something really funny about it, but I forgot. This is no reason for this to be in this podcast, but anyway,
we'll keep it because it's funny.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get people to go watch Disney Junior.
But anyway, I don't know, it's just really cool seeing just more examples of Mando modeling behavior. And them sort of sharing a nice little moment. And then the more food we see in this episode is the treat that he steals. Yeah. Which I think I would have liked to see some more scenes in the school, and maybe see this moment was purely a funny, cute moment. Maybe we could have seen a little bit more consequences for that, I guess.
Yeah, I saw another article and it was Star Wars is making Baby Yoda even more of a douchebag, making him steal someone's macaroons. And I was like, come on.
He's a kid.
He's hungry, and no one's sharing with him. Give him a freaking break, man. But no, the scene between Mando and Baby Yoda when they're drinking the soup. I saw a video that said maybe this is Mando coming around. He's almost taking his helmet off in front of another living thing, and so he's just been told that he's part of a cult, and that's why he doesn't take his helmet off. So maybe he's like, it's symbolic maybe of him like almost coming around to like realizing that maybe this isn't the only way, you know.
I think in terms of what we're seeing, like I feel like they had purposely included that because we're gradually building up to that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think he's done it before. Like I don't think it's the first time he's done it.
Oh, it's probably not, but it's the first time we as an audience have seen it, so I feel like it's more symbolism than more him actually the first time doing it.
Because not only is he lifting up the mask, but he's just like, we're just seeing a more vulnerable side of him. Like he's probably not sat with Baby Yoda in that way. You know, I don't think they've shared that cute of a moment before. But they've eaten together, but it's not like the same. That was like a very specifically composed image of them really sharing that meal together.
Yeah, and speaking of cute moments, can we talk about the opening scene real quick of this episode? I absolutely love the opening scene of he needs some wires to be put together, and he can't reach, so he puts Baby Yoda in this little hole in the ship, and is trying to be like, put the red wire where the blue wire was, put the blue wire where the red wire was. And you can see that Baby Yoda is having a very tough time, because, he's a baby, so I kind of understand. But then he shocks himself because he touches the two wires together. And I absolutely love just that interaction between the two of them. It's so funny, and it's so cute to see Baby Yoda trying to do adult things as a child. But let's see. The first big note that I have of something I want to talk about is, what do you think about Cara Dune becoming the Marshal? How do you see this as like a big jump in her character? Like, we see her as just like fighting in bars for drinks when we first introduced to her in season 1. She decides to help Mando, and then now she's the marshal of this town that she had never been to until last year because she feels a want to help these people.
I think it's like the impact that Mando has had. Like it's not like he told her to do anything, but like him interacting with these people, like they both sort of like learn to like work with other people and to protect communities, and like we're seeing that with. We even saw another marshal in the first episode, and really like dealing with, and in that episode especially, had Mando sort of showing a community how to interact with other communities and modeling how to be a leader and protector. And so I've heard it be referred to as like the elixir, like he's like shown this like new transformative way to these other people who were previously selfish, and he was selfish too, you know. And his version of it is taking care of the child, and Cara's version of it is stopping people from harassing and hurting the community. And then like Grief, his version of it is like the business side of it, I guess, like he's taking care of the economy of the community, and it's all because of this transformative journey that Mando's gone with Baby Yoda.
Yeah, as he motions Baby Yoda to me. Yeah, I love the it also could be, as we learn, that she lost everyone that she kind of loved when Alderaan exploded. We learned this with her interaction with Carson at the end of the episode. And this could be easily, she might have already been with the rebellion during this point, or she might have joined because of this. But either way, it's kind of going back to the way that she used to be before the Empire was there, you know, like during the Empire, like she's going back to helping people, and protecting the people who can't protect themselves. And it's a really cool character step. Her and Cobb Vanth definitely have a lot in common in the fact that they just want to help the people close to them, and I can definitely respect that.
and we're even getting a bit of like a really personal. I don't know if it's meant to just be a gag, but like with the lava ferret creature.
Yeah, I love that.
Or weasel or muskrat, I don't know what it is. Seeing her sort of like give it food was kind of interesting. I don't know if that's meant to be anything big like in the future yet, but
I don't know. I think it's more just showing that she's not all about. Because the first time that her and Mando fight, they like wrestle each other to the ground and end up putting each other at gunpoint. So I think this is more just to show that she's not all about violence anymore, and that she can just be nice to some things.
Well, she's still violent though.
I mean, yeah, she is, but it's not her only quality at this point.
I don't know. I think it's just sort of a little beat to see like both sides of how she's transformed. Like she's not fighting for sport, and she's fighting to protect the community, but also she's giving back, I guess. And that's personified through a weasel instead of a person. Which, I mean, she could have been like they could have done a thing where like she there's like a beggar on the street and she like gave food in it. Like that would have been interesting. But
yeah.
But that scene also reintroduces the covert that was previously occupied by the Mandalorians, and there was no longer the mythosaur emblem.
Yeah, it was like gone with like the shadow of it.
Yeah, and that was like the first glimpse that we saw of like a really very different version of Navarro. And I think something that it was a misstep for this episode is that Mando doesn't really react to that. Like I feel like they could have easily done something where he remarks on the absence of the Mandalorians, or maybe I don't know how sacred the covert is. Like I'm not sure like how much he would care about the physical like space of it, if it's like if he would be like offended that it's being used that way, or if there are robbers in it. But like it would have been interesting to see his interaction with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that'd be pretty cool. Speaking of character development, do you think it's a big step for Grief Karga to go from running like basically a bounty hunting circle to now running the economy of this planet? He's still running something, and it's all about money, so it's definitely right up his alley, except now it's legal. And is bounty hunting legal?
Yeah.
It is?
It's, I mean, in the days of the Empire, they were more, like, they were favored by the Empire, but they would still take jobs with the Rebellion, I think.
Yeah.
But, because it's the Outer Rim, and, like, there's no fully established control from the New Republic, I feel like it's just, like, a way for him to have his own circle of power, like, his own, like, something that he can control. And we see that sort of conflict with him and Carson, that he doesn't want to be interfered with.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to deal with the New Republic. And
also, he has an indentured servant, which is inhumane. So, like, it's not really explored, but I feel like there's something that if the Mithril continues to play a part in this show, I think it would be interesting to see, like, if there's going to be a conflict with the fact that, like, it's not really good that he's, like, keeping him hostage like this or whatever, but
yeah,
he obviously needs to pay for his crimes because he did a lot of
he
stuff.
could be in jail. So, like, if you were given the option to work off your debt or rot in jail for the rest of your life, I think I would choose to work, because then at least you're doing something. Like, even if you are, like, I guess he's treating him like crap, which is not good anyway. Like, he's working for you, so give him a little respect. But this does give him the chance to work off his debt. And we see throughout the episode that Grief keeps knocking time off of his debt for everything that he kind of does good. So I can see by the end of the season maybe him doing something so good that Grief is like, all right, you're good. Just go.
I mean, maybe. But I feel like that's not really the moral heart of Star Wars, though. Like, it's not about... Like, with Kylo Ren, it's not about, like the way we saw redemption with Kylo Ren was that, like, he would get to live out his redemption and continue doing good things, but it wasn't like a mathematical thing of making up for all the bad things he'd done.
Yeah.
It's ultimately about, like, the forgiveness and the turning away from those ways. Like, I feel like You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. Like, you're thinking that maybe Grief will just realize that, like, what he's doing is not the greatest and that he can just forgive him after a while, and not even just because of, like, the stuff that he does, but just, like, okay, you know.
Yeah, there's two ways that it can go about it. Either the Mithril changes his heart and becomes a better person, or he becomes worse and he's like a Lando figure that betrays Mando, and like maybe he is even involved in how the mechanic, you know how the mechanic,
Yeah, the
mechanic, like he tracked him.
Yeah,
like, the Mithril could have been on that. So like, there's two. Like he could go full heel or actually redeem himself.
yeah. I doubt they'll put him in here and just have him play the same role that he played in the first season. And in that case, there'd be no reason to bring him back, and no reason you couldn't just put a different person in that role. So I feel like there's a reason they put him there, other than just like, hey, remember this guy?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can see them using it.
It's also interesting that we got to reveal that he was already working for Grief when Mando got him.
And that's why he like ran away, is because he stole money from Grief Cargo.
He was like his accountant maybe for the guild.
Yeah.
And so he went off and he embezzled money, I guess.
Yeah.
And but now he's working off all this debt. And he's still kind of got the same job. Like he monitors the ships. Is that what he does?
I think so. It's not. I don't think it's really specified, so I'm not really sure. But it seems like he does something with monitoring or keeping the logs, or something like that. So it's definitely cool to see where these characters have come, and that something is different, and you're not just meeting up with the same Grief Karga or the same Cara Dune that you saw in the first season. Not even the same Mithril. Like he's in a different position now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
He's been caught. Now he's working time off.
And it's really cool that like with the season one itself, it felt like you're just sort of encountering a character for an episode.
Mm-hmm.
But like with season 2, it's very clear that they're bringing back old cast members, and it's like it's sort of forming what I've referred to as the Mando universe. That like they're just rotating cast of people that they can always use in different ways, and they're recontextualizing things about them.
Yeah. I like that, because again, it's a lot of these characters that you see once and then they go somewhere, and you could easily just pull them back in for like any episode. Like, oh, you just run into this person.
Yeah.
Again,
like Mayfeld, Bill Burr's character is reportedly returning this season.
Yeah, or like Pelimoto.
Yeah, like it'd be interesting to like. It's going to continue this season with like Mayfeld, and maybe we'll see. What was the guy's name? Berg.
You mean the guy played by
Clancy Brown?
Clancy Brown. Yeah, I don't remember his name.
I think his name's Berg. Like, it'd be cool to see like more like bounty hunters chasing him, maybe.
Yeah, I mean they're obviously pretty ticked off. He left them in a New Republic prison.
Yeah.
So, and according to Carson, apparently they're still there. Or maybe he's implying that they're still there. Who knows? He says to Mando in like episode 2 that he left some people there. Didn't say they'd gotten loose, so I assume they're still there.
They could be dropped off at another planet, though.
Oh, true. I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Do you have any more notes for the beginning of this episode?
In regards to the transformed Navarro, it was cool to see the plants and just everything that's sort of renovated to look pretty, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
To reflect their change in their changing society, and even the IG-11 statue.
Yeah.
To commemorate his nurse and protect is what the score is called. When he nurses and protects Baby Yoda.
Really? That's what it's called on the score?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And well, that's also his like motto, is like to nurse and protect.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
But one thing I didn't like was that it was mostly humans. I saw one alien that was a bounty hunter in Solo and Mandalorian. Like he's been in both seasons of Mandalorian now, and he was also in Solo. But other than that, it's mostly humans, and I don't really and also the schoolhouse. It was all humans except for Baby Yoda. I feel like that doesn't reflect what was actually there before. Like,
yeah,
it's like because like at first glance, what you're seeing in Navarro in season 1 is it's this wide population of different characters, and it's presented as like this is a dark, like morally corrupt place of just people who are killers.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, oh, it's a prosperous, peaceful place, and it's like all humans. Like I feel like it can't be that all of those aliens were there for bounty hunting, you know?
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, it's obvious that all the guys who were in that cantina probably were in some relation with the guild.
In chapter 3.
Yeah.
Which, side note, I realized on rewatch before the season came out, that Zero, the droid that was in chapter 6, the prisoner, he was in chapter 3 as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
He was attacking Mando on behalf of Grief Karga, and then later he ends up working with Mark Boone Jr.'s character.
Wow. Okay, yeah, I didn't really go back and watch season 1 all that much, so I didn't really get to see all these things, all these fun things. And you did steal one of my Easter eggs for the later segment with the IG-11 statue that I really love. It's got him like one leg propped up his other arm with a blaster in the sky, looking all cool and stuff. But yeah, very much like the IG-11 statue. And other than, the fact that like there's no aliens to look at, I do like the new rebuilt and revived Navarro. It looks very colorful, very prosperous, and people are just happy. Happier now than they were last season when they were just overrun by bounty hunters.
And the Empire.
And the Empire, yeah. They're, both at the same time. So, my next... Do you just want to jump into, like, going about them invading the Imperial base?
Sure.
Alright, so we finally figure out why Baby Yoda's being used by the client, and that is because he has some of the highest midichlorian counts that anyone's ever seen. And my hypothetical for you, maybe not hypothetical, just a question, does Baby Yoda actually have the highest midichlorian rate they've ever seen, or is it just the highest in recent years that they've seen? Like, do you think he has higher than Anakin?
Well, I think most of the Jedi records have been destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Emperor wanted to like erase all like record of the Jedi, so people wouldn't have anything to like look up to, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there were probably some secret records for him personally. But I mean, so in the Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon was saying that Anakin's midichlorian count was higher than even Yoda's.
Yeah, and it's like the most in history.
Yeah. So if it's, Baby Yoda is either related to old Yoda, or he's a clone, or he's the same species.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's this thing, like the midichlorians show up in anyone. Like the idea that being related to someone makes you powerful, like we already know, that's not how Jedi work.
Yeah,
like most of the time, it's just the fact that it felt narratively compelling to have a father-son, Jedi sort of thing.
Yeah,
but Yoda is the rare case. Like he's like an anomaly because no one else is like him except for Yaddle, and so we are to infer that every one of his species has a high midichlorian count.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, short answer? Sure, yeah, he has the highest M count.
Yeah, I don't really think it matters whether his is higher than Anakin's. I just thought it would be a cool thing to discuss because we don't know. They don't know Anakin's midichlorian count. They don't know.
So in that holo with Dr. Pershing, he said he refers to the child and he refers to the donor. Are they the same people?
Yeah, I would assume so.
No, but they were putting blood into the child.
No, they were taking blood out because they said
no, he said no. He said that he could only put in a little bit of blood in the child at a time because it would overwhelmingly almost kill him.
No, he said he could only extract so much without killing him, which means take out.
Never mind.
No, you thought he said inject.
So the child is the donor?
Yeah, the child's the donor. He's taking blood from Baby Yoda, and he's trying to put it in these people in the test tubes to try to make force sensitive people, and it's not working. Which comes to my theory and many other people's theories is that this is going to tie into Rise of Skywalker in some way.
Yeah, that was my first reaction when I saw it. Both from the bodies in the tank, which made me think they're prototyping for Snoke.
Yeah.
But
it
then
would also explain why he has scars all over his face and like his deformed.
Yeah, because he seems there was a failed Snoke clone in the beginning of Rise of Skywalker,
Mm-hmm.
but also Snoke himself looks like he's a failed, like, attempt at something. I don't know, like,
Yeah.
like, and the fact that he hasn't really appeared in anything else makes me think that it's not from, like, being tested in battle, you know?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think this is probably how they created Snoke, and they're just trying to find. They knew that the child had a high midichlorian count. What I want to know, and I want to have explained, is how they even knew about Baby Yoda. Because that would, I mean, where did it come from? I want to know where it came from. I want to know how they knew about it. But we're probably not going to get any of those answers this season.
Yeah. But also with the troops, the troop prototypes at the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that's easily, like, the prototype for the Sith troopers, right? Those are all clones, right?
No.
No. Those are stolen children.
What are?
Wait, no, that's the normal stormtroopers. Who are the Sith troopers?
The Sith troopers? I don't remember. I do not know a lot about Sith troopers. We will do research and get back to you guys next week.
Which, again, also not important because they were not narratively important to the story. And remember the era of Star Wars fandom about a year ago when the movie had already came out, and then all these articles are like, oh, well, this is what J.J. Abrams says this was about. What is it? That wasn't important to the story. And there's, like, planet names and everything just sort of coming out. And it's like, why don't you just make a movie rather than a bunch of Wikipedia articles?
Mm-hmm. Or Wikipedia articles.
I said that. I was very subtle with my pronunciation.
Speaking of Wikipedia articles, real quick, there is one for Gene. The one for Gene guy has been taken down. I just want to let you know that. So, if you guys don't know, there is a scene with Greef and Cara and Mando shooting at the end of this, like, big infiltration scene. And there's a dude standing in jeans and a t-shirt with a watch on, like, halfway exposed from a wall. He had a Wikipedia account that I read to Christian over the weekend, and it has been taken down. It no longer exists. I don't know.
Because it was all headcanon.
I mean, yeah, but even the ice cream guy has his own Wikipedia page. Like.
Because the data bank actually gave him a name and everything.
Oh, okay.
And he's, like, purposely featured in the show.
That makes sense.
And also, Wikipedia isn't Lucasfilm affiliated.
I know, that's why I'm surprised it was taken down.
I don't know.
I looked for it again like 20 minutes ago, like before you showed up, and I realized it's not there anymore.
I think there's a possibility that Disney re-uploads the episode and they, like, digitally wipe them out.
That is what Force Center said, and so that's why Ken took a screenshot of it as soon as it happened, because he was like, I know this is going to be re-uploaded, and they're going to take him out.
Wait, how do you actually get Disney Plus screenshots to work? Because I've done them on my laptop and my phone, and they just turn out black.
I think he just took a picture of it on his phone, like from his computer or whatever. I'm not really sure how he did it, but yeah.
Do you think they'll not only digitally wipe him out from the frame, but also, like kill him in real life?
No, I don't think so.
I don't want that to happen, but I think it's possible.
I don't think Disney could do that. Although it is Disney.
They could. They probably won't, but they could.
Disney could do that and probably cover it up for at least 5 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to... would you like to know what those are at the end of the episode?
Credits, the ones that say directed by Carl Weathers, all those, the things that, like, roll up the screen, those are credits.
Do you want to know when I figured out that Carl Weathers played Apollo Creed?
Today.
Yeah. And that he was in the Predator... Or was it Predator that he was in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I figured that out today that was him.
I haven't seen either of those franchises all the way through, or, like, a single movie of those franchises
and you
all
still
the way
knew
through.
It was him?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I didn't, because he was very buff back then, and he's very not buff now. And so I didn't recognize him, because he's, older now than he was in the 80s. But anyway, do you want to know what those, what the stormtrooper thingies were at the end of the episode that Moff Gideon was looking at?
Sure, let's get into this.
You're excited, because you have no clue what these are.
I'm not excited.
Why not?
I don't care about EU stuff.
Okay. Well, you need to know what they are. So.
Oh, I don't. It's the show's gonna give me exactly what I need.
I know. I'm gonna explain it to you anyway. I'm
gonna explain it.
I'm gonna explain it. I want to see your general reaction to these. So they're not Death Troopers, as a lot of people think they are. They're not Death Trooper outfits. They're actually Dark Trooper outfits. Quick differences: Death Troopers are actual people in costumes, not costumes, but in armor, and they're kind of specially bred for stealth, espionage, and just being overly lethal compared to the average stormtrooper. They're used as bodyguards for Imperial officers, and they were often sent on like black ops missions, basically, and they left zero evidence that they'd ever been there. Like, you would never be able to tell. And they also have upgraded helmets with like heads-up displays, and it'll give like information about the target on their heads-up displays.
And their communications are garbled.
Yes.
Can't understand them.
You
Unless
cannot,
it's the show Rebels, where they can clearly speak.
Yeah, you can't understand them if you're listening to them out. They can only speak through their headsets to each other. Those are Death Troopers, which are intense. But then you have Dark Troopers. Dark Troopers are battle droids. They're advanced battle droids, which later turn into exoskeletons that are used for they look like stormtroopers. First off, they have jump packs, which means that they can't fly, but they can jump higher and take like no fall damage, basically, I guess. Is this sort of video game? They have advanced tactical advantage because they are machine and not human, and so they're programmed to have like super high intelligence tactically. And they're armed with a shield, a blaster, and a vibro blade, which is like a short like dagger.
That's what Mando has.
Yes, that's what. Yeah. And then they're also, I just wrote down massive, because these things are ginormous. They look like a football player almost with pads on.
They look like they could be like 7 feet tall.
Yeah, they are. They're like 7 feet tall, and their shoulders are like 3.5 feet wide, but they have a really small waist and small legs. So they look a lot like super battle droids, but just like bulky and more human-like. And they were supposed to be bred as like the new stormtrooper. They've only showed up in one game from like the 90s, and that is not canon. But yeah, there's 3 versions of them, and the first version were just droids that were like insanely advanced, and then they eventually turned into exoskeletons for stormtroopers, and those guys were even more highly trained than Death Troopers. So yeah, they're intense.
Now, it seems that it's obviously a reference to those, but the way that they are manifested in this show could come out in any possible way.
Of this could change. They could be like not deadly at all. They could be like the easiest things to kill ever, but I highly doubt it.
No, they're definitely deadly, but I mean like the specifics of how they're made are not going to be as...
Mm-hmm.
How are they narratively used in Dark Forces in the video game?
I don't know a whole lot about it. I just know that they're really hard to kill. In Dark Forces, they're actually exoskeletons.
And okay, so that could... There's a lot of things about about Mandalorian that seem video game influenced. The way that he builds his armor, like accumulates new things, I guess, that like at certain times detract from the narrative. That that make me feel like it's not fully engaging with all aspects of Star Wars fandom. Like a lot of times, even this episode with like the focus on this action sequence, when like. Which is weird because Mando's not even in this sequence. They put so much time into just a big chase.
Yeah.
And that is not... Sometimes they abandoned, like, just the heart and emotional core. This is not, like, across the board, but there are moments.
Yeah, I understand.
Like, certain parts of Chapter 3, where it's just, like, fighting through a bunch of people in the Imperial base. But, I hope the way that they use the Dark Forces the
Dark Troopers.
The Dark Troopers, which you could just call them Dark Forces, right? Because they're a force. I hope that it's all just supporting the character of Moff Gideon, which everything about the way that was filmed at the end of this episode supports that. Like, I think that they're gonna keep the focus on Moff Gideon. You could barely even tell that there were troops, and I doubt that they're gonna focus too much on like this is how they were made. It's ultimately just an extension of the power Moff Gideon holds, and we know that he is that like so much more threatening because of that, because he's back with his people, with his ship and with his troops, and he has this like deadly a group of troopers, and he's tracking Mando, and it's ultimately like obviously we go back and like connect this to other things in Star Wars, but within the episode it's like he is more dangerous than we thought, and he knows where Mando's going.
Yeah,
like this is what we should be focusing on, like in terms of the grand scheme of the show. Like this is what's happening. Like he's on to Mando, and we also introduced a lieutenant character. I think she's a lieutenant, I can't tell, but she receives a transmission from the Membinese mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
And she's played, I forget her name, but I saw this on Twitter. She's played by a mixed martial artist, and there's precedent for these kinds of people in Star Wars that like if you're casting a mixed martial artist, they're gonna do some really cool stuff in action scenes. So I hope she continues to feature in the show, and just so like it would be a cool juxtaposition to either see her in that uniform, because normally if you have that uniform you're not fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Either see her fighting in that uniform, or for her to like change uniforms and see her like work as like a white collar lieutenant, but also like a combatant, because why else would you get an actress that has that sort of pedigree of work?
I will say at the end of the episode they look like exoskeletons, so I think they're going to go the exoskeleton route for these and not have them be like just
you're speaking for yourself, because you've seen like the overexposed photo that's edited so we can see more detail.
I'll show it to you after the podcast.
I've only seen from the episode that like it just feels like a black void in the room, and it's man shaped, but all I see is just like this dark void.
Yeah.
So like it's hard to like distinguish. Like it was very hard for me to like really tell that these are like people. I was like, this could just be like just random metal parts. I have no idea what's going on.
It definitely could be. I will show you, if you guys haven't seen it, there is a version of this picture online that has been like, the brightness has been totally turned up so you can see more of like what's there. What suggest looking at, you get a better look at the exoskeletons. So that's pretty cool. I'm trying to see if I have any other.
Let's talk about the chase sequence. We kind of skipped that.
Yeah, that was the last thing I had on my notes. There's a movie that Christian was referenced Christian was comparing this chase scene to. Would you like to say on the podcast what it is?
Well, first there's the way that the biker scout comes down the mountain, and he like does the wrong turn on like a jagged piece of rock and crashes into another biker scout. Like that sort of reminded me of Rebels, and the way that they would just show these stormtroopers as like total idiots. Yeah. So it felt like that sort of comic beat, but it was much more gruesome. And like it wasn't as funny as it could be, but it was still like very shocking the way that like the thing just like went literally downhill for him. Mm-hmm. But it also reminded me of this bit in me and Spencer's favorite movie, Flushed Away, where
if you saw our Instagram or our Facebook or Twitter post, you'll know that we watched this movie 2 days before recording the podcast.
Yeah, but like there's a sequence in Flushed Away where these goons. These rat goons who were riding through the sewers, they all have like mixers, like kitchen mixers, so they can ride the sewers and like use them as like as a jet ski. And there's these like montage, not like sort of a montage, like there's quick cuts of different sides of the sewer pipe where one rat comes in, one other rat comes in, and he's on a mixer, and then there's like the fourth guy is riding a toaster. And he falls into the water and he gets electrocuted and dies. And it just felt like it reminded me of that scene. It just felt like this weird, like you're seeing these threatening goon characters that are coming to chase your protagonist, but they're just kind of dumb and they ruin it for themselves by like being too risky.
Also, the toaster wasn't even plugged in.
It's a cartoon, man.
I don't care. The toaster wasn't plugged in.
It's dude. There's an underground sewer version of London.
Okay, true. Okay, I will give you that. One of my favorite things that one of my favorite bits of like media that I've seen from this speeder chase is I saw a TikTok of this guy, and it was like me watching this fight scene. Do the foot thing, do the foot thing, do the foot thing, and then when the guy like pushes his foot down and goes for it, he's like, yeah, because if you have ever watched Star Wars, anytime someone is on one of these speeder bikes, they put their foot down to go faster, and there's always a shot of their foot going down every chase.
Yeah, and particularly it reminded me of Return of the Jedi. But there's a lot of those like little visual things in this episode that reminded me of A New Hope. And I don't know, I've seen some of the discussion that like it's like J.J. Abrams did the same thing on Rise of Skywalker and The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Rian Johnson did it too, but like someone had said that like jokingly it's like, oh, it's not okay when J.J. does it, but it's okay when Carl Weathers does it. But it's interesting. Even though I feel like this episode could have been a lot more like emotionally connected, and I'll get into more narrative things that they could have done. Like we'll get into like a speculation section, but we'll also talk about what else could have happened in this episode. But the little things that Carl Weathers did was, so he had the control console just like with Obi-Wan in A New Hope, where he was switching off the was it a shield or a tractor beam?
It was he was trying to get the tractor beam in episode 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that written down as my Easter egg as well.
And then we also have the chasm, like where instead of it's just a blank void, it's like lava at the bottom. And Mando is shooting across at stormtroopers, but there's also stormtroopers behind him that he has to shoot. And he flies across rather than like swinging on a string. And just, I guess the whole set is similar to the Death Star set. And like the way that they escape. And then, of course, when the stormtroopers say, blast them! Like, this is classic Star Wars. So I think it was fun the way they did it. It wasn't, like, heavy-handed. But one thing that this episode lacked that, like, could have, like, made it better narratively is if there was some sort of conflict within the crew. Like, obviously you had like the Mythrol he was very comedic and he like wouldn't do what he was supposed to do right away. But like what I love about the A New Hope Death Star escape scene is that they're all bickering and they all have different opinions on how they should do it. Whereas this was sort of just like they're all just sort of doing it pretty flawlessly.
Yeah.
So I feel like if there was conflict within them, I feel like that would have been more dynamic. And also, the conflict of this episode is external, and it's Empire versus Mando and his allies. But they're the attackers. You know, it's not like they're being chased. Like they're going into this, so why not have like a more complex, like layers of conflict where like they're bickering or they have like strong opposing views on how to do it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like what you're saying, because I think that's a huge plot point in A New Hope, is that like they don't get along because they've never met each other, or like really they never worked together. I think that's the big difference between that and this, is that like these characters have been together and have worked together before, so it would make more sense, I guess, for them. The only bickering I could see would be between like Greef and Mando, because I think Mando and Cara have worked together enough at this point, trying to get the city back on track. They probably would get along in most cases, but it would have been cool to see like Mando and Greef have like a brief argument, like halfway through, like, no, we need to do this, and then Greef be like, well, this is my planet, I know, you know, like do this or whatever, or something along those lines. What else do you have on things they could have done better?
Okay, so there's this part of the episode where it's like Mando jets off and he's off to get Baby Yoda. And then we're just focusing on the chase between the stormtroopers and Greef, Karga, and the Mythrol. Which it feels sort of weird to just sort of abandon Mando for that long in the episode. And so what I think would have made it better is if they cut away to Mando trying to get Baby Yoda. And my first thought was that, you could just have another action scene where maybe there's another like TIE fighter going after him. Yeah. Or there's like a bounty hunter or something that he has to fight through to get to Baby Yoda.
That's what I thought was going to happen.
That was my first thought. But then I was like, what if it's the entire opposite, and he's in the classroom, and the droid is like, school is dismissed at whatever units, and like, he's trying to get the Baby Yoda out, and he's just like, no, the child is not actually a student. He doesn't go here. And the droid is like, no, he must stay until the end of class. Like, something like that, where, like, it's just, like, this entirely domestic conflict, where instead of, like, people shooting at him, he's like, no, I am his dad. Like, something like, he was like, you don't have green ears. Like, something like that. Like, what if he, like, doubts that he's even his dad? So, like, it's one of those, like, fun little, like...
He's adopted.
Yeah, like, one of those argument scenes to, like, prove that he's his dad, or, like...
Because, like, protocol droids don't take crap.
Yeah,
from
or, like...
nobody. Like, they don't care.
Or prove that he's just there for daycare, not actually a student, and it's okay if he skips out.
Yeah.
That would have been fun to just cut away to that, and then go back to the chase, and the TIE fighters are pursuing the transport.
Yeah, that would have been hilarious. I would have loved to see how a protocol droid would have treated, like, adoption with a dad, because, like...
It would just, like, look at it. It wouldn't even say anything. It would just, like, glance, like, between them two. And, like,
you would hear, like...
so confused.
You'd hear, like...
Yeah.
And looking back and forth between them. Alright, what else you got?
Oh, okay, so this... Okay. There's all this action in this show, in this episode.
Yeah.
That is very life-threatening and very shoot-'em-up, and very... They're trying to make it as visceral as possible. Even, like, the shooting at the stormtroopers, they're, like, really diving into that sound of the armor getting destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
They really want to make that feel real. Like, if you look back on the original trilogy, they didn't put as much into, like, that sound of destroying the stormtroopers' armor.
I mean, they barely made it look like you were destroying their armor. They wouldn't even put, like...
It would just put a flame.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I don't know. It really depends on, like, how, like, the narrative of each episode, but I'd really just, like, want something like a pod race. Just, like, a little lighthearted, like, big action sequence. That's one of my favorite parts of Star Wars. It'd be cool if we...
That'd be so cool to see another pod race. Although the greatest pod racer has now been turned into a speeder.
Yeah.
Anyway, you've already taken all my notes for the Easter egg segment, so I have none of that. So we are running a little tight, so we have a few more minutes if you have another thing you want to talk about.
I liked a lot of the Western themes in this episode. We talked about the Marshal and just sort of the frontier community sort of changing and evolving.
The one-room schoolhouse.
Yeah, the one-room schoolhouse. The marshals and magistrates, like the titles, I guess, is really cool.
Yeah.
It's not like a fully, like, developed society. It's just like, oh, it's just a small town. These people have these roles. And I didn't have time to look up the actor's name, but there's a character in the movie Stagecoach, which was one of the most, like, influential Western movies that, like, really inspired George Lucas. That he's a character that, like, he's similar to the Mythrol, and, like, I feel like there's a weird connection between them. That he was just, like, he's a coward, and he's, like, sort of just dumb when it comes to, like, communicating with the other, like, more adjusted people in society, and they're always sort of, he's kind of the butt of the joke a lot of the time. And apparently the actor's been in, like, a ton of other Westerns. He was, like, really good at portraying that role. But also in Stagecoach, there's like a banker character who's, like, very greedy and very corrupt. And I feel like the Mythrol is, like, this combination between those two archetypes.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see that, like, homage to Western films, but, like, see that sort of complexity within the Mythrol. He really needs a name. I'm tired of saying the Mythrol. I hate it. It feels like a medicine or a mint. I hate saying the Mythrol.
Mythrol's just a weird word to say. I don't like the word Mythrol.
I mistakenly, a few episodes ago, called the walrus monster from Chapter 1 the Mythrol, because I just got them mixed up. And that feels more like an apt name for
it does.
a big walrus monster. But, like, a guy, just like a random blue fish guy, like, something more, like, aquatic, I don't know. But also, like, give him a name. He's a person.
There could be a chance that he doesn't have one. Like, sometimes people, I guess, in Star Wars universe, you've seen just don't have names. Like, if they were born, like, way out from the city or kind of, like, cast out from a city or something.
Well, yeah, that's It depends on what you want to do with that. Like, I feel like it enriched Cobb Vanth's character when he just called the weak way.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, that's how he sees other people who aren't human.
Yeah.
But it feels like they could have easily given the Mythrol a name. Because he's a
probably.
businessman. He would want a name to project to clients or
absolutely.
other people he wants to do business with. But yeah, I think that's all I have about Western. Okay, let's talk about music. Let's talk about Ludwig
music
Göransson.
segment. Yes, sir. Always.
So the big analysis I have for this episode is that, so you know that theme that often like is played at the end of episodes where it's like it's like sort of transitioning into the Mando theme.
Mm-hmm.
I kept expecting that at the end of this episode, as the scene with Carson Teva and Grief came up. I was like, this I don't know, my ears just like were trained to think that was coming up.
Yeah.
And then we get that scene with Kara and Carson. So it's like, the episode's not over yet. We're still playing around. And we get this orchestral sort of another version of the March of the Resistance, which I forgot to mention for chapter 2. Like, that's a big thing that Ludwig incorporated with the X-Wing rescue.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, he's using the March of the Resistance theme, which also is significant because it's the first John Williams theme in this show.
Oh yeah.
I contextualized that this week. Like, it's a John Williams thing that's working its way into this Ludwig
I like that.
Göransson score. But yeah, I just love that he keeps doing that. And the show in general is dealing with the resistance / rebellion sort of thematic significance with Star Wars, and the fact that we're seeing it from different characters' point of view, but we're still seeing the thing that like we're used to looking up to, like with the resistance symbol that Carson leaves on the table.
Yeah,
so powerful. That was the best part of the episode for me. It got me emotional just because I connect so much to the music and to the resistance symbol,
and also just the fact that like she's thinking about it because she lost everybody, and she doesn't. Like, that was why she wanted to fight for people in the first place, is because she couldn't save the people that she loved when Alderaan blew up.
Yeah, and she's got it tattooed on her face. You know, like that's...
Yeah.
She's very much connected with that symbol, and so it was... And I like that Carson didn't, like, lecture her or didn't, like, say... Like, didn't really critique her. It was just like, hey, you have a place here. If you want... Like, she has a community, like, that she's protecting, but it's like, hey, we need help, and... the door is always open.
Exactly.
And I love that like familial aspect that's also intertwined with like the fight to protect innocent lives. And then that's juxtaposed as we cut to I don't know what ship it is, but Moff Gideon's Imperial ship.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is another reference to A New Hope. They used the Star Destroyer going overhead the camera.
This is the music thing that I do know, because I did realize this.
Yeah, the dum da dum da dum, and so we build to that, and I like that it's juxtaposing the rebellion, like March of the Resistance theme with this new Imperial theme, and we're at the midpoint of the season, and so we're on one hand we're getting this sort of emotional, satisfying sort of thing with Kara, and then we're going straight to the suspense. And danger incoming, because the rest, like Mando's being pursued now, where he was previously just left to his own devices, and now it's like ramping up. We're gonna get some real danger in the rest of the season, and it's always just a classic, you know, like on the edge of your seat. This is not gonna end well. Cliffhangers, sort of thing. And then the next episode will likely not address it at all.
No, it won't. So we'll just be sitting here and we're like, what the heck?
But the last episode, we're like, we're going to get Ahsoka. And this episode, not at all. So,
but you and I both said we wouldn't get Ahsoka this episode, so
but
I was not expecting it.
Like, the general fans, though, it's like, one episode promises something, and you don't get it the next episode, but then you get something else that was promised earlier. Mm-hmm. And then that episode promises something, but you don't get that until 2 episodes later.
Yeah, exactly.
Star Wars just loves playing games with us.
Speaking of games, I think we talked about this the other day, but I'm expecting the whole Boba Fett thing to be like what happened to Fennec Shand, and I could see them addressing Boba Fett first episode of the new season, and he doesn't come back until season 3.
Yeah.
I could see it happening. I'm also prepared to say, hot take, 2 episodes from now. The episode after we get Ahsoka, we get Fennec Shand back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling it. 2 episodes from now. Episode 6. Episode 6 of the season. I was counting on my fingers. Episode 6 of the season, we're getting Fennec Shand back. But with Moff Gideon.
That's a possible direction. Well, because, we don't know if at the end of the Gunslinger episode, if that's Moff Gideon or Boba Fett.
Yeah, I assume it's Moff
her.
Gideon.
Yeah. But I was also just thinking that when Mayfeld returns, like, him being a bounty hunter, he could be working with Fennec Shand too. He could have been rescued by Moff Gideon as possible. Because that Republic prison ship, there's no drones. Like all the robots were destroyed. There's not a human pilot. Carson Davis, like, he referred to like they investigated the ship, but it could have easily been overtaken again by Moff Gideon. And so he could be using those bounty hunters for information on Mando.
Yeah.
And to help him in his pursuit. Which would be fun because it's returning to that thing in Empire Strikes Back of the Empire employing bounty hunters.
Or just find all the people that are ticked off at Mando and use them.
Yeah. Yeah, they have incentive because
yeah,
they were screwed over by him.
Yeah. That'd be really cool.
So I have a prediction that next episode will be a lot more mystical, forcey, weird, and
I agree.
Peaceful. I don't know about peaceful because I don't think Ahsoka's in a good place.
The way you're holding Baby Yoda right now looks like he's using the Force. By the way, I just want to let you know. He has his hand out like he's using the Force. Anyway,
I think that this next episode won't be as action packed, and that I don't know. I'm expecting something great with Ahsoka, and I hope that we explore her. The way that she's an evolved Jedi, that she's like a good, reformed version of a Force user, but I also want to see some darkness within her. I listened to a podcast called What the Force, and they were talking about how she could be like a Merlin figure, but also like a witch.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be really cool to explore that.
She went to Dathomir, and she's now one of the sisters. No, I'm just kidding.
Not fully that way, but like I don't know. They also talk about how Filoni, the way he's written Ahsoka, is that she's like 95% of the character, like they totally like ignore like any sort of like questions about like her sexuality or like if she like it's one of those things where like it's not really addressed. It's not really like because it's because she started as a child character, and so it's like Dave Filoni, who doesn't have that experience as a woman, doesn't know how to like really express that sort of maturation of a character.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder if they're gonna like explore any of that either through a love interest or through a motherhood, because both of those things are lacking in Star Wars in terms of like letting strong female parents also be able to love who they want to love, and also, it'd be cool if mother characters didn't die.
Yeah, it'd be pretty awesome.
And something with there's definitely, we talked about this, but there's definitely a conflict between her and Mando in terms of what to do with this little guy, Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
And another bold prediction: we're gonna get a name for the child.
Ooh, really? It's gonna be via Ahsoka.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Ahsoka would be the only character in this to give. I'm surprised Pelimoto didn't give him a name.
The only thing we've gotten is Grief Karga calling him a little bogwing.
What does that mean? Is that a species? And like it's a joke?
Probably. Oh, it's sort of like Womp Rat. Yeah, it's just like comparing him. It's like when Rocket Raccoon is called a trash panda.
Or a rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, understandable. Is that on the notes we have for this episode?
I want to reiterate my prediction that Moff Gideon is either a Mandalorian who's turned heel or that he is an Inquisitor.
I like the Inquisitor route more.
Who, like, if he's Inquisitor, he survived Order 66 and like turned on his peers. Like that would be.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome.
And I want to predict that we have not seen the last of Grief Karga and Cara Dune this season.
I agree.
And it would be easy to assume that Mando's gonna return to Navarro, or like they're gonna meet up and like team up against Moff Gideon. But I think it's like the opposite of that. I think Mando's gonna be in trouble, and they're gonna have to rescue him.
Yeah, I think so.
Be an interesting way
sense.
to do it. Or they don't return until season 3. It's possible.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen any footage in the trailers except for their footage from this episode.
Mm-hmm. All right. Sounds good. All right. So thank you guys for listening to this episode. If you made it this far, congratulations. Like I said at the beginning, we're trying to get the audio level sorted out. So if the audio is a little wonky this episode, we're going to try to get it fixed before next week. If you guys want to go follow us on Instagram, I'm spncr.c on Instagram. Christian is Mission Kriller. Go follow the podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, Last Star Wars Pod. You can also find us now on YouTube, and we now are going to start posting all these lovely podcast episodes onto YouTube, coming out every Monday at 8 a.m. So yeah, if you guys want to email the show of anything you want us to see, any of your big predictions, something you liked or disliked about The Mandalorian, you can send that in at laststarwarspod@gmail.com while Christian is putting his headphones onto Baby Yoda. So yeah, send us some emails. We'll respond to them on the show. And if there's any cool series you want us to do after we finish Mornings with The Mandalorian, send those in as well. Thank you guys for listening to this episode, and we will see you next week.